Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Empower Me First Ministries, bringing insight, knowledge, and understanding to empower humanity. This series is called The Power of Influence. I will continue the second point, emotional blackmail. Last weekend, I started on emotional control. I gave a few points as to what control is. I mentioned control is the overbearing exercise over another to keep them subservient, to feel inferior, and to oblige to obey when you don't want to. This is where someone makes you think everything is your fault. You are blamed for minor things you have nothing to do with. If you want to know more, please visit my YouTube channel for last week's definition on control. But before I go into the emotional blackmail, I want to share with you this amazing book I have written. It is entitled, It is the Evidence That Demands Your Verdict. It asks the question, Jesus or Muhammad, who is the greatest prophet? The Christian teaches that Jesus is the greatest prophet, and the Muslim teaches that Muhammad is the greatest prophet. So for me to be fair and honest to both sides, I have investigated these two men from a biblical and Quranic perspective and read the testimonies of many Islamic philosophers, many Christian philosophers, and religious leaders. And I've read and searched through historical archives about these two men, who up to this day still influences the two largest religions in our world. In this book, you'll have to read through the evidence and the testimonies on both sides, and at the end of the book, you, the readers, will give the verdict. So please get your copy on Amazon. You can also get a copy in German. I want to continue talking about emotional blackmail is not influence. It is an attempt to control someone with whom one has an emotional connection by tactics that make that person feel guilty or upset. It is when someone uses their emotion to make you feel guilty to get what they want. Example, in relationships among couples, you can find relationship blackmail. Relationship blackmail is an emotional blackmail. It happens a lot in relationship between couples. When you become so emotional that the next person gives in to your demands for the sake of peace, and so doing, they get what they want at the expense of the other person's individual rights. Example, when someone said to you, I have been very good to you. If it wasn't for me, you would not be where you are today. Or, I have helped you many times. Now it is your turn to do the same for me because you owe me. Another example, when a man tells a woman, if you leave me, I will take the children. Or said to her, no man is going to love you as I do. So the relationship becomes a bargaining chip. And then you have parental blackmail. And emotional blackmail happens also a lot in parenting. A strategy that many parents use when bringing up their children. They use guilt, fear, intimidation, threat, and often use patience and affection, all to get their children to do what they want. The truth of the matter is that many parents are unaware of the consequences that this can have on their children. They don't realize how their dubious methods can affect the relationship they have with their children. There is no denying the fundamental role played by parents in the psychosocial development of their children. Parents constitute the main means of development and socialization for their children from a very early age. By the same token, the role of the family unit in psychosocial development is undeniable, with parents being the most powerful force in their children's lives for good or bad influence. This happened in many cultures where parents Remind their children how much they owe them, so the parents believe because they work hard to give their children a good education, send them to university. Now they believe they remind their children it's payback time. And they keep reminding their children how much they owe them. Please do not misunderstand me here. I am not saying that children should not care for their parents. Even the Bible said children should honor their parents. The problem is when the parents uses emotional blackmail to keep reminding their children that they have a parental loan to pay them back. It is emotional blackmail. Many parents use fear, obligation, and guilt in their relationship with their children to make certain that the children feel afraid to cross them. Children also can use special pleading and emotional blackmail to push their own interests and self-development inside the family unit and influence their parents to do something they would not normally do. Parents that have children who engage in emotional blackmail can feel as though they have been held hostage by their own children. When we stop using emotional blackmail when bringing up our children, then it is more likely they will end up being more good influence in a certain way of behaving by themselves, ways that truly influence them and those around them. As with all forms of blackmail, it is a strategy that hardly ever produces any kind of positive influence. Then we also have employers blackmail. This is very important. This is when your employer gives you a job because you pleaded and begged. So the employer feels sorry for you. So now he feels you owe him extra time because he wants you, you owe him extra time without extra pay. And if you refuse to work extra time without pay, he or she reminds you they took you in when you had no job. And there are a lot of other people out there that need employment. So if you really want to keep your job, you must put in the extra time. Even if you face a quite scary situation as an employee, giving into the demands will only encourage your employer and make the situation much worse. In most of the countries in Europe and elsewhere, it is against the law for an employer to blackmail an employee to influence them to do something illegal so they can keep their job. If you have been blackmailed by your employer, report it because it will not stop. Some employers can ruin your career. Spend enough time with them and the damage becomes inevitable. They will threaten to fire you if you report them. And there's a problem. Your employer knows they can do what they want. The vast majority of employees know it also, which is why so many employees work in fear. Then once you are burnt out and used up by your employer, they created an excuse just to fire you. Then you have those employers who are corrupt. And many employers are afraid to report their employers to the authorities because those whom you expect to protect you in some cases are also corrupt. Or if you are desperate for help because of your poor economic situation, your employer will bribe you in accepting payment to keep your mouth shut. So you are emotionally influenced to do the wrong thing all because of fear. They might even offer you a small pay rise or promotion if they are allowed to continue influencing your decision. That's it for this weekend. Next week, we continue with the third point, emotional manipulation. Please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more empowerment video. Thank you.